Pirelli GT4 America features some of the most hard-nosed racing you will find anywhere on the planet. And today, the series arrives at a venue that's just as tough as the competitors themselves, Sebring International Raceway. With a history that dates back to 1950, Sebring has tested many of the sport's greats. The challenge ahead, a pair of 60-minute races across 2 days in the Florida heat and humidity, all while battling with 29 cars, 58 drivers, each seeking a piece of Sebring history. Oh yeah, Mother Nature could have a card to play too before it's all said and done. Some ominous clouds starting to roll in the distance. We'll keep an eye on the skies. But for now, we'll keep our eye on the cars as they roll out for the formation lap here at Sebring. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and it's Amanda Busick pit side for us, who I'm sure is hoping the rain stays away for the next hour or so. Getting ready to go here for the third race of the season, Calvin. The year started 3,000 miles or so west of here in Sonoma. Much different challenge here in Sebring.
Very much so, but what great racing we saw over this. It's two of the most spectacular races we've had in the last handful of years, so if they can repeat that, I'll be a happy boy. But this is a different challenge. We had a new racing surface in Sonoma. This is old school. 70-plus years have been put on this surface here, and it's a totally different challenge.
Great field of cars as ever, super close in qualifying too. The difference between first and second on the grid was less than a tenth of a second. These are the two drivers that will share that front row. John Capestro-Dubets for RS1, the team that just won in Fanatec GT a few moments ago. Next to Jonathan Neudorf in just his second ever start for Tech Sport. Dan Hanley and Matt Bell making up the second row. Great to see Matt back in the series. John Jesbring and Tony Gaples in row 3. Wonderful qualifying effort from Tony. Kevin Bohm out of the silver class back in 7th next to Colin Garrett, who starts 8th today. Then Johan Schwartz debuting this year with Light Spec Racing next to Demir Hott from Flying Lizard. Roland Crines on the M-Class pole. He'll have Michael Oriema next to him. Demi Chalkis and James Walker Jr. set to start in the 7th row. Colin Harrison out of Tech Sport Racing in the 2nd Tech Sport Nissan starts next to Gray Newell. And Kurt Swearingen from ACI Motorsports was on the podium earlier in GT America today. Starts next to Jaden Lander. Then to row 10, Hannah Greenmeyer from Heart of Racing. And Paul Sparta from Random Vandals. Todd Perriott and Kaya Teo make up row number 11. Row 12, Ryan Keeley from Auto Technic and Anthony Geraci from Krug Speed. Row 13, Sam Owen and David Peterman from OGH Motorsports and Nola Sport, respectively. Then it's Steve Schneider and Nick Shanny in the 14th row. And starting out back, Charlie Postins, the two-time and defending series champion, at the back of the field. A technical infraction post-qualifying put that car to the back, but they've got great pace. Let's keep an eye on them to make a charge.
Yeah, and they didn't have a great start to their campaign at Sonoma, so we're hoping to rebound, and Charlie put in a good qualifying performance, but that's been thwarted here. So two-time champs, looking for 3 in a row, but tough start to the year.
Just one formation lap here this weekend. Cars will start to get into alignment here on the Ullman Straight, of course named for aeronautical engineer Alec Ullman, who came up with the idea for endurance racing on this stretch of pavement. Originally Hendricks Army Airfield, used to train bomber crews back in the 1940s, but converted into a racetrack in 1950. The first ever event, the Sam Collier 6-hour Memorial, held on New Year's Eve day of 1950, that set a legacy in motion for sports car racing here on the bumps of Sebring, and it continues today with Pirelli GT4 America. Front row belongs to the Porsche of RS1 and the Nissan of Tech Sport Racing. Second row, we've got the Toyota Supra alongside the Mercedes. And a great mix of cars and manufacturers all throughout this field as the cars enter the VP acceleration zone. There's the green flag. John Capestro-Dubets from pole. He's to the right-hand side of the screen, but it's Neudorf who accelerates away. The rookie jumps to the front, and he'll lead this field of snarling GT4 machinery into turn 1 at speed for the first time.
Yeah, and there's one of the Aston Martins from Heart of Racing really broke out of line very deep in the pack. We'll have to see what the stewards think about this one, but so far so good. Everyone's surviving.
Matt Bell slots in third. That's the leader in the Pro-Am class. 3 wide further back in the pack. This is where it gets feisty. Already we see Charlie Postins making some moves. He's up a few spots at the back of the pack. That is, again, the two-time and defending series champion in the AM class, making up ground in the early going, side by side with a couple of Nissans, one from Tech Sport, the other from Flying Lizard. That's somewhere around 15th in this field of cars. Fights everywhere throughout the field here on the opening lap.
Yeah, I think that was Colin Harrison aboard the 22 machine there in the middle of the pack, but so far so good. Tough to keep this snarling pack clean, but what a start there for Neudorf.
Yeah, Harrison was fighting with Demir Hott. That was for 12th place here on the opening lap. But wow, you're right. That start from Neudorf, picture perfect. That's the white hooded Nissan that comes through. He's got Capestro Dubets, though, starting to reel him back in after really not getting the best of jumps despite being the pole sitter.
That Bell, really nice start, jumps up to P3 immediately aboard the P1 Group Mercedes-AMG GT4 machine. That's the 43 car, third in line at the front of this pack right now. Hanley, a nice start aboard the Hanley Motorsports GR Supra, sits there in P4.
And for Bell, he's got a gap of 4 GT4 silver class cars, splitting him from the next car in class. Johann Schwartz back at 8th, but second in Pro-Am. Great debut for that Raceway Racing team.
Yeah, they got high hopes there. Got a really exciting driver lineup there. And Shelsky is co-driving with Johann Schwartz. Impressive young man. Got a single-seated career going on at the same time, running in US Pro 2000. Had a podium run in Florida earlier this year, so he's a young talent to keep an eye on.
And a team on the rise, too, coming to this type of racing from Radical Cup competition. Here we go. Battle is on. Supra and a couple of BMWs mixing it up. I think that is that Gonzalez? No, it's Jesbray starting for Smooch Racing in the 6th spot, going door to door here.
There's Garrett, I think, on the outside.
Correct. Former stock car driver, so he's not afraid to trade some paint, but he has to back out of it there. Jesbray hangs on.
Jesbray and Gonzalez have the early season lead, admittedly very tight, certainly early in the season to be thinking about championships, but nonetheless a really solid start for that duo at Sonoma.
The common refrain anyone you talk to in that silver class is, boy, it is going to be tough this year. If you get a podium, you have done something special because of the number of high-quality teams and drivers in that class.
What a start to this race for Neudorf. Got the jump and first flying lap. About a second and a half clear of the field, so he has absolutely got the hammer down aboard that Tech Sport Racing Nissan GT4.
Ostens, by the way, up 6 spots from the back of the grid, up to 23rd from 29th overall, and already knifing his way through the AM class traffic. He's on the verge of a top 5 in that class. Told you to keep an eye on him, and that's what we will do over the next 56 minutes and change, especially also when he turns the car over to James Clay.
Start is under review, and I've got a feeling it's got to be for one of those harder racing Aston Martins. I'm not sure if it's the 26 of Hannah Greenmeyer or the 24 Gray Newell.
And there's the answer from Race Control. Car 24, drive-through penalty, start violation. You nailed it, Cal.
Yeah, you get that concertina effect, and you think you're going to ram someone, so you jump out, but they're going to call it. It's a really tough one, but it's a tough day to start the race and have to do a drive-through penalty here.
That's brutal for Gray Newell, who shares that car with Roman DeAngelis. Really impressive and rapid young Canadian who has vaulted through the ranks at an astonishing rate. Kayateo at the spin. Young woman who made her debut last year and a partial schedule.
Co-driving this car with Nick Longy.
Safety car is out. And I'm not sure what that is for, but Race Control has dispatched the safety car. That is a little bit too soon to help the heart of racing. They needed one, but after the drive-through was served. So double yellow at start finish, and we'll do our best to get an answer for what the cause of this might be. But how about this young man, Jonathan Neudorf, from Tech Sport Racing, paired with Mackay Stevens this year. Mackay making the switch to Tech Sport after a couple of seasons with John Farrow's operation, which at the time was run by Conquest Racing. But these two, in their first weekend in the car, first race weekend in the car at Sonoma, were instantly on the pace.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mackay took that knock going through the carousel and got turned around there in one of the races. Otherwise, the weekend points-wise could have been a lot better. But nonetheless, impressive paces so far by Neudorf. On that second fire, he's still almost the second clear of the field, so that Nissan has come alive here earlier in this race.
This is the leader in Pro-Am, Matt Bell. This is the American Matt Bell, by the way, as you can see, I suppose, by the flag next to the name, left-hand side of the screen.
We haven't seen him compete in, seems like a handful of years, just disappeared off the radar, so great to see him get this opportunity back with this operation.
As far as I can tell, this is his first season of racing since 2017. Remarkably. Looks like this is the car that has brought out the yellow flag.
17.
Sam Owens, yeah. Pretty heavy impact with the barrier. Sam is out of the car, it looks like, and gives a thumbs up, so that's good to see. But tough break for him, as well as Sean Gibbons, his co-driver, that whole OGH Motorsports operation. Doesn't look like the barrier is in need of any repair, so hopefully they can get that car cleared away and get this race restarted. Am I correct? Is this the first full course yellow of the season?
We had one late in race 2 at Sonoma, I think.
I'll take your word for it. Your memory is better than mine, that's for sure.
That turn 10 chicane, is that it?
Yeah, that does ring some bells. But it was a remarkably clean
incredible
opening weekend with tremendous battles. I think there was one race where all three classes were up for grabs on the final lap. We had fights in each of those classes. It was fantastic. Hey, if you watched our Fanatec GT broadcast earlier, you saw our track preview where Calvin Fish was taken for a hot lap with Parker Thompson. Well, Parker's in this race, but he's standing by now with Amanda.
And Ryan, just a quick update on conditions down here as you teased earlier at the top of the show and talking to teams. They do think we will see rain here at Sebring. They just hope it's at 6:05 tonight, which would mean after the race. And Parker, I was just talking to you about the start of the race and looking at where Daniel is at the moment. Any feedback?
He's doing a pretty unreal job. I mean, a year on from here, obviously we won here last year. It was our first win overall. But for him to start this race third overall in his qualifying category, pretty unbelievable how far he's come. So really proud of him. Got through the start like a pro on that. We're sitting fourth, and now we just need to keep it clean and bring it back to me.
Well, if you guys follow Parker or Daniel on social media, they have some really good content shared with race fans. Just talk about the relationship between you two.
Well, it's pretty brotherly. You know, getting him to trust me through this process. Brand new to cars. It's his second year, but when I got him, it was basically fresh. I had to connect on him on kind of a more of a level than I would just anybody off the street. Honestly, we just get along. We have a lot of the same hobbies. I lost a bet, and we'll cover that in the next social media segment. But I ended up having to do one of his hobbies, which we can probably post about later. But it's good. He likes Star Wars. It's May the 4th today, so I think he's sitting pretty good.
Well, there's the teaser to go follow them on social media. And just the thoughts with the team leaving Sonoma.
Well, I think everybody wanted more. You know, the first race, for him to have, it was his best qualifying. Now he qualified third, so that's his best. But for him to have his best qualifying in fourth, and then for us to not get to finish that race, I think everybody wanted more. But we're still fifth in points, and it's a long season. Like I told him, the championship isn't won until about the three-quarter point. So that's our target. We got a lot of summer months to get through before I'll start looking at those mistakes on both our sides. Right now, we just got to go maximize points, go for some wins, and have some fun.
Thank you, Parker. Good luck.
Thank you.
I wonder if Daniel shares his Legos.
What do you think?
I don't know.
He's got a great collection, we're told.
Could see it on the next social post.
Maybe so. Well, I wish we had got a screenshot of your face as he was hurtling through turn 7 in that track preview we had for our Fanatec GT coverage. Calvin in the passenger seat.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good ride, let's put it that way.
You're a believer in his skill after that, I take it.
I was a believer before I sat beside him, but even more impressed afterwards.
Well, as advertised, Charlie Poston's our hard charger here in the early stages, up 9 spots already. That's just 2 racing laps, let's remember. 2 and change, I suppose. But Charlie's up to 20th overall and now sits where? 5th, I believe, in the AM class. And this yellow's probably good for them. It condenses the field again, and Charlie can do his magic that we saw in the start on the restart.
Yeah. Certainly a great start for him, and as you say, this yellow compresses the field, so the gaps aren't there that you'd normally be dealing with. So you're fighting through the tail end of the field, so it's going their way, but certainly Sonoma was not great for the group. They had a DNF in one of the races.
Very uncharacteristic. They've had very few finishes off the podium over the last 2 seasons. The vast majority of those podiums have been wins. There's a reason they are the 2-time and defending champions. They also, and I'm a little grumpy about this if I'm being honest, they keep telling us, well, we're done, we're going to ride off into the sunset, and then sure enough, they turn up again. I bet the rest of the AM class would probably be ready to see the backside of their shirts, right, walking away if they decided to hang it up. But I'll tell you, they've been a wonderful pairing over the last few seasons, and the benchmark, I think it's safe to say, for bronze-rated drivers in GT4 machines here in SRO.
Yeah, and I think similar to Parker Thompson and Daniel Hanley, they have such great chemistry, good friends off the racetrack, share a lot of time together. I think for Charlie and James Clay, they just love the race weekends. They enjoy their own company and the teams and dinners and everything else. So they're deadly serious when it comes to being on the racetrack and being ready to go, but they enjoy the camaraderie, I think, almost as much as the racing, and that's why they continue to do it.
Mentioned Matt Bell, American Matt Bell from Mountain View, California. Got his start all the way back in 2008. Did some touring car style racing, a couple of different championships. Won races, came close to winning championships, most notably with Stevenson Motorsports. That was up in what was effectively the precursor to GT4 here stateside at the time. Has done some NASCAR racing as well over the years, but quite a hiatus from 2018 to 2023. My notes on him are barren, which isn't...
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
He wasn't racing.
Okay. Well, it's good to have him back. I guess that's the moral of the story here. Paired up with Alex Vogel in the Rintec team, which has expanded to 2 cars here this year with Michael Oriema and Mateus Laced in the other car. They had a really good result winning one of the races in Sonoma, so there is some good momentum under that Rennsport tent. Now let's take a look. We might have some notion as to why we're under yellow.
Yeah, he got turned.
Sure did.
He just accelerating off of 13, just the cars too close together and just turned him.
I believe the other car in question must be Cayeteo. That was car 80, and we saw her off track too. And that incident is currently under review per race control.
She was off like through 13, 14 though, right? So
yeah.
Bizarre. Unless there was a residual effect with the race car. But this is getting pretty close. I mean, the earliest they can stop and suffice the minimum and maximum drive requirements is 36 minutes and 24 to go. So we're less than 10 minutes to that point. So for some of these drivers, if they take the opportunity to pit early, it's going to be a relatively short green run for them.
That is Sam Owen's car on the rollback there, right-hand side of the screen. Yeah, to your point, and maybe we should rehash this, there was a rule change in the off-season. So if you're familiar with this series, in previous years, there's been a mandatory pit window that had 5 minutes on either side of the midway point. That is gone, although effectively the window remains very similar, but instead of that window being the guiding light for teams from a strategy perspective, it now comes down to minimum and maximum stint lengths.
It does, and basically the maximum stint length is 35, and then the minimum transition time down pit lane for GT4 cars here is 84 seconds. You add those two together, you get 36 minutes and 24 left to go in this race, is where that cutoff point is to come in at the earliest point. Otherwise, you could go to 25 minutes to go in the race on the other side of that.
Looks like we're approaching a restart here. Safety car is accelerated away. Here is the youngster, Jonathan Newdorf, out of Sunset Bend, and he puts the loud pedal down emphatically. Look at the Nissan accelerate away under the green flag. We're racing again at Sebring, side by side, back in the battle for the third spot. Here comes Bell to the inside. Working around the outside is Dan Hanley. Not for class position here, but Hanley needs to clear that Mercedes to get to the next 2 cars in his class.
Kevin Bowen looking for a way through in P5, but now he's under the attack. I think as Jesbray to the inside of him through Christensen's corner.
And that is for class position. A couple of silver class cars. Jesbray gets the job done. Bohm under assault now from Colin Garrett. Garrett sweeps around the outside. He'll grab that spot, and that brings Johann Schwartz into the conversation.
Yeah, Kevin just keeping it extra clean there, but a couple of the cars took advantage of that, so not a great restart lap here for Kevin Boehm. They lost a little bit of track time earlier in the weekend, so they're a little bit on the back foot at the same time.
Well, we mentioned the fact that the yellow came too soon for Heart of Racing, which that 24 car owes a drive-through penalty for the start violation. Evidently, they tried to serve it. The yellow came out, so they drove down pit lane, gave up all their track position, and will have to do it again, because you cannot serve that penalty under yellow. So that is really tough luck for Gray Newell and Roman DeAngelis.
Yeah, tough day to rebound from, and still plenty of time on the board there. Let's see what happens. Strange things can happen, but they need a lot of luck with some yellows deeper into this race.
Approaching the beginning of that pit window in 6 minutes time or thereabouts. Keep an eye on the pit lane and what the strategy call might be. In the meantime, we check out a battle just outside the top 10 overall. Colin Harrison, oh, we got a spin here, and that is Postons. That was the big mover early in the going. That's a spin exiting Le Mans Curve.
Yeah, I wonder if 2 cars got side by side there through turn 16. Certainly becomes an overtaking opportunity when the pack is really close after a restart here. Hopefully he can keep some life in that BMW and get going again there. 13 car potentially involved.
Yeah, that's Todd Perriott. Car he shares with Tom Dyer. That's gone around 2. Here's Harrison working his way up the inside, fighting this time with Roland Crines. That's the leader in the AM class. Harrison doing a really nice job this weekend in that Tech Sport Nissan, setting the table for Eric Powell, who was the star of the show here last year, if you recall. Colin had to miss the races that weekend, so that meant Eric drove solo, and he came from the back to the front seemingly every single race, and there were 3 of them here last year because they ran a makeup.
That's right. Jesbray working on Hanley. 2 Toyota Supras there going up against each other. Both in the silver class, battle for the final podium spot at this stage.
Yeah, Bohm counterattacking. He lost this spot last lap to Colin Garrett. He's able to draw back alongside these 2, Auto Technic and Random Vandals, the 2 teams side by side. Bohm on the outside, able to hang tough though. He's still at the flank, bouncing up and over the curve. That car was a bicycle for a moment. Garrett with a big slide, still door to door on the run into the braking zone here for Tower.
Yeah, thinking ahead here, and if he keeps it clean, this may allow Bohm the inside line up into that next fast left-hander.
Remarkably clean between these 2, at least for now. We'll see if it stays that way because it's not done yet. Bohm had the inside, now the inside swings back the way of Colin Garrett, and it does look like, well, no, it's not over yet. Bohm's still there, hanging tough around the outside. Awesome.
Oh, really clean racing there by Garrett. Actually gave Bohm some room there and cost himself some exit speed, so Bohm's able to clear him as they come down the Ullman Straight.
That's a change in position for 6th and 7th overall, just off the podium in the silver class. Give the spot to Kevin Bohm in the CrowdStrike AWS entry from Random Vandals Racing, but Colin Garrett's not done. He got a run through Sunset Bend. He is at the bumper of that leading BMW in the pairing, and right behind is Johann Schwartz, a very interested spectator, albeit out of class.
Yeah, he's got several silver-rated cars between he and Matt Bell, who continues to lead in Pro-Am as Kenton Cook watches on. Feisty little battle here between the 2 BMWs, but good respect at the same time.
Kenton Cook, the co-driver for Kevin Bohm. Zach Anderson set to jump aboard the 51 in the second stint. 39 minutes, 30 seconds to go. Neudorf leads by 2.2 seconds over JCD. Then it's Matt Bell, third overall, leading in class, and there he comes in the black Mercedes through the picture. Then you get to this battle here. Hanley under a ton of pressure from young John Jesbray.
Yeah, he really is, and it's hard to believe that Jesbray is the more experienced of this little duo going hard at it here.
These two very similar arcs, actually, in their careers. Jesbray just a year or so ahead, but he turned up with next to no experience a couple years ago and was instantly on the pace and actually won an AM-Class championship paired with Kevin Conway. Ran in Pro-Am last year, now up to silver this year. Hanley, as we heard from Parker Thompson earlier, turned up last year with no racing experience. Immediately was quick, if a bit unrefined, but tell you what, they've ironed out some of those kinks, and Hanley looks like a force to be reckoned with for many years to come.
Yeah, they got a really solid group there, put together a great race team. Spoke to Daniel yesterday along with his engineer, Chris. Super talented engineer, so they got all the right ingredients there, and certainly Parker Thompson is top drawer in terms of having a co-driver to take over the reins of this Toyota Supra for the second half of this race.
It's 4th and 5th overall, and 3rd and 4th in the silver class. Looks like Hanley's feeling that pressure. He goes defensive. Same story just behind with Kevin Bohm, but this is the better battle of the two. Hanley with a compromised entry.
Jesbray looks to the inside. Can he tuck it in the inside? Side by side, coming off of 17 across the bumps.
Who can get the power down out of 17? In the early stages, it looks like it might be Hanley, but Jesbray on those headlight flashers, looking for any advantage he can gain. Looking inside, looking outside. John Jesbray smells blood in the water.
Could see some pit stop action on the next lap here. That's when that window opens.
37.5 minutes to go, so yes, next time by, the window effectively opens up. If anyone would like to make the early call, Neudorf continues to lead. His advantage, by the way, is now 3.2 seconds. Having just set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, he's got the fastest lap, Calvin, by over a second.
It's incredible. Just incredible pace, great performance. Who's going to blink first? How many of the Pro-Am runners will pit their AM here at the earliest opportunity and get their pros back in the cars as soon as possible?
This has now become a four-way fight, although maybe Hanley is starting to develop some breathing room. Looks like he's not under so much pressure anymore. It's suddenly Jesbray who finds himself on the defensive with a couple of very aggressive BMWs lined up behind. By the way, penalty served for the 24 of Gray Newell, so that's been taken care of, but they desperately need a yellow to get back in the swing of things.
Battles throughout this field, sensational stuff. So many manufacturers involved here. It's a real melting pot.
This is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and yeah, just keep counting from there, basically. They're all in a line. Demi Chalkis in the Mercedes there, she is 9th. Then you get to a couple of Porsches. Roland Crines and Colin Harris, excuse me, well, it wouldn't be Porsches, would it then? It would be, well, we're gonna have to check on that. Looks like Swearingen has gotten around Harrison. That explains why it's 2 Porsches at the front of this train. Then it's Harrison. Then you go back to Demir Hott in the Flying Lizard car and Hannah Greenmeyer at the tail of that train too. In the meantime, it's hotting up here at the front of this field with John Jesbray now coming under some pressure from Kevin Bohm.
Everyone takes that early opportunity, so everyone's waiting a little bit longer.
Doesn't look like anybody has made the pit call yet, but we do have a few teams that look like they're standing by and getting ready to go, so we'll keep tabs on that if we can. I think maybe ACI is one of them with Swearingen. They've got Kai Van Berlo waiting to go, and it does look like Swearingen's made the call.
There we go.
Johan Schwartz is out.
Yeah, so teams got to be on top of that. You don't just run to the 35 minutes to go. You can come in basically the pit lane delta or transition time earlier than that, which is 84 seconds earlier than that 35-minute mark.
It's just a driver change, by the way, in Pirelli GT4 America. No tire changes, no refueling. The only adjustment you're allowed is to bleed some air out of the Pirelli P0s. That looked like a pretty clean driver exchange for Deschelsky getting in, replacing Johan Schwartz. This is ACI, what we mentioned. Swearingen out van Berlo in, racing on home turf. Although he's Dutch by birth, he now calls Florida home, in the Miami area, in fact.
Yeah, and Swearingen's done a really nice job this year. Spoke to Kai van Berlo this weekend. They said that they've been really working on Kurt in terms of his aggression in a race car, and he's really stepped up. Did a really nice job at Long Beach in GT America and had a really solid day so far here at Sebring.
This is Dushelski making his debut. Radical Cup experience on lots of single-seater experience. Like Calvin mentioned earlier, stood on the podium at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg in USF Pro 2000 earlier this year, and they plan on running at least 2 races, as many as 4 weekends, depending, of course, on his commitment to the USF Pro 2000 championship this year. But it was interesting. I talked to Danny, and he said that his goal, actually, from the beginning was GT racing. That's what caught his attention. Hopped in a single-seater early on when he kind of went through to get his racing license and things like that, and really enjoyed it. But this was always actually top of the list for him. Into the pits come a whole host of the leaders. So now it's going to be about execution here on these driver changes. Looks like JCD is in, Matt Bell is in, and a whole lot more too. Neudorf stays out. His lead, by the way, has grown to 4.5 seconds, and I might have misspoke. I'm not sure JCD actually is in. We'll check that in a moment. This is Smooge Racing making the switch. Jesbray out. Tyler Gonzalez, reigning GR Cup champion, getting plugged in.
Yeah, how impressive has that young man been over the last couple of seasons? Dominated in GR Cup last year, had a brilliant victory along with Jesbray at Sonoma. Really impressive young man. I think it's good for John as well to really have, his talents pushed a little bit. They're super strong, the pairing.
See the car sitting stationary. That's good news. Means it's been a clean driver exchange. Now they're just waiting to make sure they don't leave too soon. Oh, it's got to be tough to sit there and watch this battle coming out.
Yeah, because you see Parker Thompson leading, I think, as the Hanley car, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so they should have gone out about the same time.
Yeah. So. Little hang up for Smooge Racing. That cost Jesbray some track position. Hanley out. Here comes the 2 BMWs. They'll resume their battle with 2 different drivers aboard now. Dushelski coming through on his first flyer.
Yeah, Hanley right on the money, 124.2, so just a couple of tenths outside the minimum. So, yeah, not sure what was going on there. The Jesbray to Gonzalez exchange. Looked nice and calm, but someone was amiss. Not sure if they didn't have radio communication. Maybe Tyler didn't have radio communication with the team to be released or something.
Whatever the case, it has cost them. We'll see exactly how much once the pit stops cycle through. Speaking of cycling through, new leader, it looked like perhaps in Pro-Am. Not sure about that, so hold the phones, at least momentarily. This is the leader here in Neudorf as far as the overall lead is concerned.
Yeah, I think Matt Bell should lead in Pro-Am right now because he hasn't hit pit lane and he was running up there in the top 3 or 4, so he should be the leader in Pro-Am. But Neudorf has just got the hammer down. We know how quick Mackay Stevens is, but, Neudorf is just really on top of this race car here this weekend. Once he's in this sort of rhythm, why not maximize it?
Absolutely. Native of Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. I guess the only counterpoint is if a yellow should fall, then that could cost them potentially. They would pit following a restart, and that would cost them track position. So that's the risk they're taking here. But for the moment, at least, the pace of Neudorf makes it an attractive proposition to keep him on track as long as possible. There's the Krug Speed team.
Had a good start to the season.
Anthony Gerasi started this race.
So 4th in the points coming in.
Checking in on this battle. Parker Thompson in the Supra.
Let me tell you how he takes this corner.
You tell us, because you know firsthand.
He said, with this Supra, you really need to load up that right rear as you go into this corner, and he just literally leans the car over on that right rear and lets it take a set. He said that's the way to get this car to work, and he was totally on top of it. It was really impressive to watch firsthand.
Technique-wise, how do you do that? How do you load up that corner?
Well, you just got to be aggressive with it rather than just turning in nice and slowly. He's just super aggressive with his initial turn and get that rear to set down on that right rear tire and just let it lean into it. And then the suspension system seems to work better. So he said if you don't do that, it gets super edgy and you're going to struggle to get through the corner.
Neudorf, as mentioned, he's from Alberta. Same is true for Parker Thompson. Red Deer is his hometown. Looked like a future IndyCar star. Opportunity didn't quite present itself, but he has found himself a real career opportunity in sports cars with Toyota and Lexus. He is a very busy guy. Yep, here's Neudorf in. Mackay Stevens will take over. The black, white, and red number 23, and the Chicago native Mackay Stevens loves everything about that, of course, growing up a big Bulls fan.
I was too back in the 90s. Lived in Chicago, went to a lot of the games. Not during their championship run, but certainly the Jordan era. That was a fun time to be in the city.
As an Indiana guy, they broke my heart a few times. Reggie Miller couldn't quite keep up with Michael Jordan and company, but those were some fun series for sure. Just past halfway, 28 minutes to go. And I think we're about to see things cycle through here pretty soon. That was a shot at the RS1 team. Eric Filgaris behind the wheel. Let's see where he is relative to Neudorf. Here he comes out of Sunset Bend. It's not Neudorf anymore, of course. It's Mackay Stevens. And here comes the RS1 Cayman with the head of steam. How quickly can Mackay Stevens get on the pace here? That's going to be the question.
Well, same set of tires, so he doesn't have to think about warm-up. Certainly they'll cool down a little bit sitting on pit lane for a minute and a half, but nonetheless, he's going to have tire temperature, so he should be able to find the rhythm. But RS1 have had a brilliant day so far. Won the Fanatec GT race a little bit earlier in the day with Hinman and Pompelli. Looking to sweep and claim Pirelli GT4 here as well.
These two teams had nearly identical pit stops, so nothing gained or lost of consequence in that exchange. So now it just comes down to in and out laps and then ultimately settling into a rhythm and a fight to the finish, quite possibly, of course, between those two. Here's Parker Thompson. And he will want to insert himself into that battle before it's all said and done. Right now he's got Kenton Cook behind him. And then Zach Anderson, after such a tremendous season, paired with John Cabestre Dubets, by the way, last year. Those two super close off track as well as on. And JCD gave way to Eric Filgaris during that pit stop. So those two not facing off against one another on the track, but their teams certainly are. And it's a bit bittersweet, I think, between the two of them.
Nice job by Matt Bell. Really strong qualifying performance. Really good opening stint there for the 43 squad.
Update from Amanda. We were wondering about that Smooge Racing pit stop. Tyler Gonzalez evidently just didn't have the car in gear yet and tried to pull out. Revs went to the max because it was still in neutral, and that cost him 3, 4, almost 5 seconds.
Well, you know he's going to be on a tear. He won't be happy if that was a mistake by him.
That was the Pro-Am leading car, by the way, prior to the pit stops. With Matt Bell running long, he'll be turning over to Alex Vogel. So that team, Rinsport, electing to run their more experienced driver here to start race number 1. The shoe will be on the other foot then tomorrow. Here we go. Gap at the line. Vogel still scored the leader because he hadn't, because of the pit stops, effectively. But Mackay Stevens over Filgaris. That's the true battle for the lead, and it's 4.8 seconds between the two.
Yeah, and Parker Thompson sits a further 4.2 seconds back as well. So see what he's got in terms of pace. We start to get everyone back into a rhythm here in the second phase of the race and start to do the math and see if there's any potential change in positions there for those podium spots.
This would be a pretty good day if you're a Nissan fan, the way it's shaping up, if Mackay Stevens can hang on and get the win, remember also, Super GT is in action this weekend, and it was a pair of Nissan Zs racing in the GT500 category that went 1-2 earlier today, our time, at least. So Nissan suddenly very busy in motorsports again, having a really good year in Formula E too. But it's nice to see them back with an investment in sports car racing, and the teams I've talked to that are running that car here, including Flying Lizard, like you see right here, they say the customer service that Nissan is offering is absolutely second to none.
Yeah, they did such a great job last year with Tech Sport in terms of getting the development done with that race car. They had a lot of presence at the racetrack. You could recognize they were taking it very, very seriously in terms of this customer racing program.
That black and red Nissan, number 22 from Tech Sport. That's Eric Powell, former touring car champion in TC America. That was back in 2021. Big part of the development of this platform on behalf of Tech Sports and Nissan last year. And they turned up with a heavily revised package this year. They have been super, super strong. Colin Harrison started that car. Oh, that was super, super tight there. Looks like he's fighting with Austin Crines, who is the leader, now second place car rather, in the AM class. That's the number 18, primarily blue Porsche Cayman. So that pass not for class position, but it does now free Powell to chase Radzinski in the Flying Lizard Nissan. That would be for position in class.
That was Chris Wilson right behind them there in the Random Vandals BMW. He shares with Paul Sparta. They had a good start to their campaign at Sonoma.
Vogel dropping through the silver class
Always
field.
wide.
Goes a little bit
It's really wide
there.
through turn one. It's Gonzalez down to the inside, and Dashelski goes through as well.
Yep. All of those cars, well, the Dashelski car, that actually was for the lead in the class. So that was a big move there from the first-time GT4 driver. And also Van Berlo through, that would be for position 2. So, wow, Vogel dropping back to third, but they were on an alternate strategy here. Let's remember starting their more experienced driver here in race 1, kind of similar to what Regulator Racing did earlier today in the Fanatec GT race.
Yeah, young Dan is only 16 years old. Just amazing. Just how impressive these young kids are, and certainly simulators and everything. It's a big part of that, coming into the sport with such strong pace, but nonetheless really impressive here as we look at him in the middle of our screen.
And that's the blue, white, and orange Mercedes. Dan Dieselski from Charlotte, North Carolina, runner-up in Radical Cup North America last year. Also finished second in the Radical World Finals the previous year in the Pro 1500 category.
Johan was doing some coaching with him in the Radical program, and then they got the opportunity with the same team to put this Mercedes on track, and showing up strong.
Absolutely. Busy, as we mentioned earlier, on the single-seater side, racing for Turn 3 Motorsport this year at USA Pro 2000. We got a spin coming onto the Goldman Straight, and that is Vogel, who's gone around at a really high speed, high commitment section of this track, facing counter course. This is not where you want to find yourself, he says, stating the obvious. Turn signal on. Needs to get this thing turned back around. This is not a comfortable spot to be in.
Here's Gonzalez here. Dan 6 overall, 6th in class as well in silver. Being chased by Dashelski there, our leader in Pro-Am. For Gonzalez, he's got to be kicking himself if it was a personal mistake by not having the car in gear when he got released.
And more on Dieselski and that story now, pit side with Amanda Busick.
Yeah, and with that Vogel spin, that does put them P1 in class. And I was talking to Johan Schwartz about their pit strategy. They were the first car that we saw when that window opened. Johan said he simply wanted to get Dan out and out of the traffic that could be on pit lane. That actually happened a couple laps later when everyone got in on for their pit stops. But talking to Dan ahead of his debut here today, he said he was really happy with how Johan handled the car, and he was hoping that he could go out and do the same. And Johan said, what an opportunity this kid had right here in race 1 of his career.
Well, he's hanging right with Tyler Gonzalez, the reigning and champion of the GR Cup, and he won that going away last year. Absolute dominant season. And he's got some experience in this type of car. Dzelski does not. And look at him putting the pressure on that Toyota Supra driver. Really impressive here in the early going.
Yeah, really great run for that group. They'll be optimistic about what they can do for the season. Just dipping their toe in the water here and immediately on pace in their class. Look at Gonzalez just throwing that car around there. Beautiful sequence of corners there, great rhythm. There's Mackay Stevens up front. Last time across the stripe, that gap to Phil Garris was 4.5 seconds. Stay pretty constant there. They're running very similar lap times.
There is the gap. First back to second. Stevens comes through the shot. Then it's Phil Garris. Then it's Parker Thompson. Then Kenton Cook. Zach Anderson runs 5th. All of those cars in the silver class. Same is true for Gonzalez. So that means this battle with Dzelski is not for class position. However, the car behind, Kai van Berlo, is 2nd in class. So that will be something to keep an eye on. Then it's Max Root, who's filling in for Michael Cooper this weekend for Black Dog Speed Shop. Mateus Laced. Eric Powell up another spot. He's in 5th now in class for Tech Sport. And this here is a fight for the lead in AM. Rob Holland has the position, but Austin Crines is absolutely on it right now, taking a peek to the inside, and he might have the position to go for the lead here into turn 3.
Yeah, he does. I mean, both those cars kind of compromised their exit at turn 1, but Crines gets the job done down the inside.
It's a 3-car battle, too, because Chris Wilson, that's the Random Vandals BMW that sits right there in the same shot. Hannah Grisham in 4th. We saw her a moment ago. And Matt Nillian not too far behind either. So we've got a whale of a battle breaking out here in the AM class with 17.5 minutes left in race 1.
Yeah, and Wilson's got lap times a little bit quicker than Crines, so let's see what he can do if he can clear Holland, maybe chase down that car for the win.
Last time we saw Rob Holland, he was running towards the front in the GT America races at Long Beach a couple of weeks ago. Something of a one-off appearance in that championship for him. He's back here for a full season in Pirelli GT4 America this year. Rotec Racing Team coming under pressure here from the very experienced Chris Wilson, who has slotted in alongside Paul Sparta with Random Vandals this season.
Wilson, good run there, nowhere to go with it. BMW looks strong up against the Porsche there on the run down through Bishop.
Certainly does. Behind this duo is Hannah Grisham, who is coming under some pressure from Matt Millian and had a nice weekend on debut out in Sonoma.
Grisham and Greenmeyer have the championship lead.
They do.
At that win, and another podium out there on the West Coast, so great start to their campaign together.
Running just off the podium right now. Looks like Dzelski has dropped off of Gonzalez. And so now it just becomes this as a battle for the lead in the Pro-Am class. Amazing debut for this Raceway Racing team and for this young 16-year-old.
Yeah, doing a really solid job, but you know Kai van Berlo's going to be up on the wheel here, doing everything he can to wrestle that lead away from Dan.
Mentioned Danny's program in USF Pro 2000 being with Turn 3 Motorsport. That's a team run by Peter Dempsey, whose father is something of a legend in the single-seater Formula Ford ranks over
Cliff.
in the UK. Cliff Dempsey, exactly.
Peter was a great driver himself. Just wish he'd got an opportunity at the higher level because he's an amazing talent, but runs a great race team.
And many of these drivers, if you ever hear us talk about Team USA scholarship winners, when they get sent over to the UK, they drive for Dempsey Racing over in the UK in the Formula Ford Festival and associated events. Here we go, replay of the change for position here. This is Wilson.
That was
inside.
nice.
Yeah.
Into the brake zone, then just released the brakes and just slid down the inside. Just great experience move there by Chris Wilson. Now he's going to chase after Krines. I think he's got the pace potentially to catch him and pass. A lot of time left in this race still, into the final quarter.
At least in 2 of the classes, this is shaping up to be a barn burner finish here in the final quarter of an hour. Stevens leads Filgaris by 4.5 seconds, and there's not much to choose between the 2 of them. In fact, the pace edge swings the way of Stevens, at least for the moment. Thompson is quicker than the pair of them, and really it might end up being a battle for second rather than a battle for the lead in silver.
Yeah, I agree with you, because Thompson was like 0.6 quicker than Filgaris on that last lap.
Yeah.
So it'll take him about 4 laps to get there. There's plenty of time left on the board.
But
It's
then
not
there's
over.
this, fight here in Pro-Am. Dzelski and Van Berlo blitzing through the little kink in the road that is turn 2. This is turn 3. What a weekend it would be if Danny Dzelski and Johann Schwartz and this Ryspec Racing team could win in their series debut. One of the most tightly contested fields in sports car racing here in North America.
Yeah, I mean, just totally different levels of experience in these sort of race cars. I mean, Kai Van Berlo, look how deep he takes it in on the brakes, almost got into the back of the Mercedes there. But Dan's just staying cool there. Really impressive. Johann Schwartz said he's the real deal, and he's certainly showcasing that here today.
Look who he's between. Again, we read off the accolades of Tyler Gonzalez already, but Kai Van Berlo, he's the Porsche Motorsport North America selected driver, was named to that role last year and has retained it. Comes from a racing family. His father Marcel races, his brother Glenn also a strong driver too. He's a former Endurance Cup champion as well at IMSA in the LMP3 ranks is Kai Van Berlo, but maybe best known for what he's done in single-bake Porsche racing and other GT-style racing over the years. Well, this is quite the scrap that's starting to develop. Chris Wilson has dropped Rob Holland. That's brought Hannah Grisham into the mix. Matt Million is in the mix as well. And then also the car from Flying Lizard was there. Here we go, side by side. This is at the front of the field in Pro-Am. It's an out-of-place silver car, and Tyler Gonzalez that has dropped back into the clutches of the leaders in Pro-Am. That's forced Dzelski to go the long way around of the Supra driver. The 2 keep it clean. And what can Kai Van Berlo do? He's got the double draft here. He's thinking about making it 3-wide cow.
Wow, look at that, and slices it back down to the inside. What a move by Kai Van Berlo.
Bumper from Gonzalez into the back of Dzelski. That propels the Mercedes back alongside the Porsche. That's the fight for the lead in Pro-Am, but advantage Van Berlo here through turn 3.
Fantastic racecraft there by Van Berlo, but Dzelski's done an awesome job just staying in the heat of this battle without cracking.
Well, remember, he's not used to being able to bump with his competitors. He comes from single-seaters. You do that, you break your front wing.
He's not giving up. He's not backpedaling here. He's not intimidated by this. He's ready to get stuck in again.
And don't sleep on Max Root, who is also there. He's entered the chat. That's the Black Dog Speed Shop entered Nissan Z. Max Root filling in for Michael Cooper, who's on Carrera Cup duty down in Miami here this weekend. How about Dzelski? He wants that lead right back. He's immediately back on the attack.
He is. You talk about Max Root. He's had great success here at Sebring over the years, knows the track well. And Tony Gaples did an awesome job qualifying that Black Dog Speed Shop. Really high on the grid here this weekend. Nice opening stint. Ray Sorensen really excited about the potential with this Nissan. Early days, but certainly shown great pace here at Sebring.
Dropping back to the M class fight. Radzinski a bit out of place in the Flying Lizard Nissan at the back of this train. That's a Pro-Am class car, totally surrounded on either side by a host of Pro-Am cars, at least as far as the scoring pylon is concerned. He's only got them out the windshield effectively at the moment. But it's Rob Holland fighting gamely, trying to hold on to the final podium spot in the Porsche. Just behind him Hannah Grisham doing a wonderful job for Heart of Racing, looking for a third consecutive podium to start the season. And then it's Matt Million, just his second race weekend at this level.
Totally different start to this campaign for Hannah Grisham versus last year. Last year they couldn't catch a break, it seemed, and this year really solid with the win and a podium at Sonoma. Another strong run here today so far. Johann Schwartz watching on Michalski's progress here.
Yeah, Dan doing a wonderful job. Run right in the tire tracks of the vastly more experienced, but still very youthful, it should be noted, Kai van Berlo. 6th and 7th overall, but 1st and 2nd within their class.
He's not taking off.
Nope.
Michalski is just hanging right with him. Awesome debut.
Back to this battle. 3rd, 4th, and 5th in AM. And then the Pro-Am car at the tail of the train. Tough spot to be in for Brzezinski, is a really quick young Canadian driver. Another one that looked like he was on the path to open wheel success, but has found this opportunity here alongside Demir Hott for Flying Lizard. Not exactly sure what put them back there, because I think they were running more towards the front in class earlier.
Yeah, they had a rough start to their campaign at Sonoma. Basically, destroyed a car and had to go for a backup on the sort of debut they were looking for, but a lot of work by the Flying Lizard team to get them on track there at Sonoma, which was their home base, of course, at the time. Grisham really trying to figure out a way. Holland's so much experience, he's not going to be an easy man to get by.
Think of what he's done in his racing career. Rob Holland, many, many years racing at the Nürburgring, raced in British touring cars, and if you know anything about BTCC, you know how stiff the competition is there. He's made some World Touring Car Championship starts, and he's the cork in the bottle here. Oh, that was super close between Grisham and Million. And Brzezinski now has a bit of a run, but do you want to get mixed up in this out-of-class battle? It looks like he's thinking about it.
Yeah, Nissan's got really great straightaway speed, so he's just trying to thread his way through without getting involved in the battle, not getting hit. Grisham there was really trying to set up Holland, and suddenly Million thought he had an opportunity.
A learning process for a young driver like Matt Million. Here comes Grisham. Plenty of pace in that Aston. Brzezinski, though, looking to the inside. That will break off the battle for the podium.
It's close. So much
sure
a brush
was.
there right at a critical part of turn one. At such high speed, cars totally on edge there if you get a little bump.
And Matt Million desperate to get back around, even if it means nothing in the class, just so he can get back into the fight again with Grisham and Holland.
He may look for the Nissan to open up the door and go with him. Just hang tough. Be right tight with him. Grisham there is just focused forward, it seems, more than she's worried about the attack from behind.
In the meantime, starting to have a battle here. And this is for 2nd and 3rd. Well, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, actually, in Pro-Am. But 2nd and 3rd is what we'll highlight. Michalski and Root. Oh, and in the background, Gonzalez has his hands full. Not sure that car's handling is quite the way he'd like it. But there's Root giving chase on his first weekend in this car. Former GT3 AM class champion in Fanatec GT a couple of seasons back.
Yeah, another great young talent. And spoke to Ray Sorensen about him. He said he's just fitted in perfectly, just fast and great feedback with the car, doing all the right things.
Ray told me as well, just super calm on the radio. You give him an instruction, he just says, yep, 10-4, got it. And right there, he swings around the outside of Dzelski. At least momentarily he had the lead, but there was a bobble mid-corner. That opens the door back up for Dzelski to fight back and take the 2nd spot back.
Yeah, and immediately gets defensive. This allows Kai van Berlo to take off a little bit in the Pro-Am lead.
5 minutes to go. Van Berlo is loving all of this, looking out the rear view camera in that Porsche Cayman. How about Dzelski? on debut. I mean, Root effectively debuting because his experience is more on the GT3 side, but at least in SRO, and certainly not in this Nissan. But still the more experienced of the pair of them in this style of racing. Oh boy, Radzinski again, mixing it up.
Watch
with
Million, he's looking for an opportunity here on Grisham.
These are AM-class front runners he's among, so Root thought about going the long way around down in the hairpin, couldn't get the job done.
Awesome battles around this racetrack. Fantastic stuff.
Van Berlo and Swearingen, what a result this would be.
So Root there, the brake light's flickering as he's trying to keep the pedal up when he gets to that next brake zone.
Stevens' lead has come down, by the way. At the very front of this field, it was 4.3 seconds. It's down to 3.7. There have been some reliability concerns with that particular chassis, for what it's worth. We saw that in Sonoma. Let's keep an eye on that. For now, Stevens continues to lead. Oh, Grisham lost out in traffic that time. That was Million able to benefit from the out-of-class car.
Yeah, so from thinking about a podium, now she's running top 5.
Dzelski just given a warning for blocking, as you can see top of the screen.
Yeah, I think I was probably coming down the front straightaway a couple of laps ago. Well, part of the learning curve, what you can get away with. Okay, simple rule is you can't be reactive. If someone makes a move, you can't suddenly block them. You have to position your car on that side of the racetrack. You can drive wherever you want, but not in reaction to the driver behind you.
First, second, and third in Pro-Am coming your way. And fourth, I think, is the car at the back of the picture. It is indeed Matheus Leist, former IndyCar driver, starting to reel this group in. He and Michael Oriema had a great weekend in Sonoma and looking to keep that rolling here this weekend in Sebring.
One round 2 there, second in the points right now coming into this weekend.
Michael told me having Matheus to benchmark his times. It was an AM class entry last year, single car, so they didn't really have anyone they could judge themselves against. And so having Matheus, having Matt Bell too under that tent has been a big asset. This Nissan is not fighting with these cars. We have to remind you for position here. So this is really the fly in the ointment as far as the battle for third, fourth, and fifth in the AM class. Not sure Stefan Radzinski has gotten that memo. Here's Root again. He'll try the outside. Dzelski not having anything of it, though.
No, he's a good little racer. I like how he goes about his business. Johann Schwartz is loving it.
Well, Johann was effusive in his praise when he was talking about Dan. And, you know, when you get the attention of someone like Johann, I get the impression he's not easily impressed. So it is high praise when it comes from a veteran like Johann Schwartz. And Dan was also really excited about the chance to work with Johann, recognizing all of his accomplishments over the course of his illustrious career. White flag waves here at Sebring. Mackay Stevens' lead is 3.5 seconds. The chasing Eric Filgueras has not given up, just turned that car's fastest lap of the race. But it's not going to be enough, not at this pace at least, with only one lap to go. In the meantime, here is Dan Dzelski for Ryspec Racing, fighting and clawing, trying to hang on to second in his debut here in the Pro-Am class of Pirelli GT4 America.
Yeah, and he's gap route a little bit on this lap, so he's taking the pressure off a little bit with just one lap to go. Kai van Berlo looks comfortable up front, but great battles throughout this field. I mean, up front is just such a strong standard in terms of the driver lineups there, with Mackay Stevens leading Filgueras, Thompson, and Kenton Cook, but they're all on really impressive lap times, but not really making any headway on each other, and that's because the table was really set by their co-drivers in the first phase of this race.
And then the dad and lad pairing, Roland and Austin Crines, doing a wonderful job once again.
Wilson was a bit quicker there at one phase, but he's not really made any impression, and Crines has just got his head down and solidified this lead.
Has done. I think, though, Random Vandals will take it. Chris Wilson, Paul Sparta. Of course, they also have a car in the silver class that runs fifth at the moment, or make that fourth at the moment with Kenton Cook. Car started by Kevin Boehm. Their strong start to the year continues.
Yeah, Sparta and Wilson came into this race second in points back of the two Hannahs, and I think if Grisham finishes in fifth, the way they run, Wilson and Sparta may take the championship lead overnight at least.
Yeah. It'll make for a fun Saturday night here in Sebring. Jonathan Neudorf got this started with an excellent opening stint, but it's Mackay Stevens who is set to take it to the finish. Tech Sport Racing through the final turn for the final time. The Chicago native Mackay Stevens sees the checkered flag first. Stevens, Neudorf, and Tech Sport, they get the race win in race one of the weekend at Sebring. Phil Garris comes up 3.6 seconds short in the pursuit. Then it's Parker Thompson, Kenton Cook, and Zach Anderson, the top five. Now we turn our attention to the leader in Pro-Am. Kai Van Berlo finished the job started by Kurt Swearingen, and Kai Van Berlo celebrates in his adopted home state of Florida. Great result for Raceway Racing as well, with Dieselski fending off Roots to complete the podium, second and third in class. And here comes the Krinesmobile with Austin behind the wheel now. Roland got this thing started. They started from class pole, and it's going to be a 12th place overall finish, but more importantly, a class win for those two. And with that second place finish, it looks like Chris Wilson and Paul Sparta might find themselves in the championship lead, pending how this race finishes here. Radzinski got by Holland. Holland finishes where? He dropped down the order at the finish. There was a time penalty for him. That explains that. They had a short pit stop, so that's why he dropped down. That means, well, what does that mean? It means Matt Million's on the podium.
That's right, Borscheller up to fourth, Grisham fifth. So Borscheller got around Grisham towards the end of that race, so still a top five for the two Hannahs for Heart of Racing. Holland drops down to six.
Oof, that's tough for them. They had a really nice day going, but under the minimum time during the pit stop, and that cost them dearly as it turned out. About half a second's worth of being under cost them 5.7 seconds in penalty, and that equated to a couple of positions, 3 or 4 positions on track. But they'll regroup and come back at it tomorrow. Well, quite a day, plenty of stories to pick from in this one, but perhaps this is the story of the day. Raceway Racing on debut. Johann Schwartz did exactly what we thought he would do, but interesting they elect to go with their young charge second in this race, up against some of the top drivers in the series, and it looked like he belonged.
That's how you learn too, and he's certainly up to the task, but that's how you're going to learn in some of those battles that he was in. Just fantastic racing between he and Van Berlo for the lead there at one point.
Provisional race results. There are a few incidents yet to be sorted out by the stewards. We saw a few notes that those would be dealt with post-race, but as they finished on the road and factoring in post-race time penalties at least, Stevens and Neudorf, the winners by 3.6 seconds. That'll make them happy. They had great pace in Sonoma, but very little to show for it.
Yeah, it's a really great bounce back, and really showcases the pace of that Nissan after a development year last year with Tech Sport.
We thought Capestro Dubets and Eric Filgaris would make quite the tandem here this year. Wasn't the greatest of weekends for Porsches at Sonoma. A lot better here at Sebring, and the result is there to show for it. Rest of the podium in silver. Hanley Motorsports with Dan Hanley and Parker Thompson. Another good day for them. In Pro-Am, Van Berlo and Swearingen ahead of Dieselski and Schwartz. Root and Gaples. Great to see Tony Gaples on the podium once again. And then in Am, RS1s, Roland and Austin Krines with the victory. Paul Sparta, Chris Wilson, provisionally the new points leaders in the Am class. And then Keeley, who is debuting this weekend alongside Million, is on the podium. Impressive stuff from that bunch today. Playing Postons, remember they were on the charge early, got turned around, and never could quite recover from that. So it's been Something of a dreadful start to the year for the two-time and defending champs. They've got some work to do.
Yeah, they need to start turning things around quickly before the season gets away from them. Still early in the going.
Apologies for the language there, but obviously a very excited bunch picking up the win in Pro-Am. It's Van Berlo with the helmet on and Swearingen with the helmet off. They'll be on the docket to hear from here shortly, but we're waiting to hear. It looks like Amanda is standing by with our race winners overall.
Oh, and a lot of congrats down here as we get ready for the celebrations. And as Mackay gets his helmet off, Mackay, you back up your win here last year with another one here in the new format for you. But I saw you congratulating Jonathan as well. What words did you say to him?
Just wanted to thank him for the tremendous job that he did at the opening stint. And then that is, further testament to the organization, doing all that we can, everybody playing their part and then some. A wonderful series to be in, tremendous competitors to be able to share the podium with. Congratulations to Jonathan for taking a W.
And Jonathan, that W was earned by you. You had a heck of a extension coming into the pit stops, but you just told me that you haven't even sprayed champagne before. Describe the emotion of a first win.
I'm just so happy, and Mackay did an amazing job handing the car over to him, keeping the gap where it was, and putting in some really fast laps at the end. Tech Sport did a great job, and I'm beyond thrilled.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well, in Pro-Am, it was ACI Motorsports, and man, when Kay Van Berlo took the lead over Danny Kurt, I heard you scream the loudest, I think, in your group. Just watching that unfold for you, is it better inside or out of the car?
I'm not sure. It's good either way.
Just talk. I mean, even today, earlier today when you were racing, it's just been a nice Sebring for you. What about this place works?
We've been here quite a few times, and we like the place, and we enjoy it. It's one of our favorite tracks, so we want to come here and do well. And we didn't qualify as well over here as we wanted to, but I made up some positions, and he made up positions, and here we are, the first win.
You did take the lead from a guy that is debuting in the series today who will end up P2 in class, but talk about that move and when you knew it was the right time.
I actually didn't know, to be honest. We were going down the back straight. I tried to stay in the toe and just take the inside, because usually you have a bigger chance on the inside. Then he was able to maintain the outside line through 17. As we approached turn 1, I saw him going to the inside, so I was like, I might as well follow him. And then he braked relatively early, so I was like, hey, this might be an opportunity. So jumped, twirled off the brake, went into the corner and got the job done. So to be completely honest, it wasn't really planned, but I'm very happy with the result.
I'm pretty sure all of pit lane heard the celebration when it happened, though. Congratulations. Well, you talk about a debut for a young driver. His co-driver said what an opportunity that this kid had, and boy, did he succeed on it. Danny, on the podium, your debut. Johan, after the race, said you did unbelievable. Talk about this experience for you.
It was amazing. Johan got me out there, I believe, in, P2, and so I was able to cycle out to P1 afterwards. And once the Porsche got by, it was a great battle to get with the Porsche too. And then once I was battling that Nissan, those last 5 minutes, it was just amazing. That was so much fun racing for 5 laps straight like that. And Raceway brought a great car. Johan did a great job. It was amazing.
I think Danny showed incredible composure out there. You would expect this out of a 30-year-old that has been doing this for a long time. This is his first GT4 race here, and then he goes on and put a show like that. The pass that he made in turn 17 on the outside, we're like, somebody tried that in me in practice and didn't make it work, and he's one of the best drivers out there. I saw him do it in the race, and he made it work, so very good driving by Danny.
Congrats, you guys. We look forward to tomorrow, and as we find our AM winners from RS1, what a day for them. Man, talk about that last stint of the race.
Yeah, it definitely was pretty toasty in there. Didn't think with this overcast that it would be so hot, but we made it work. It was definitely hard-earned. It wasn't easy, so just glad we made it unscathed pretty much. So.
And Roland, you guys have had success here at Sebring before, now being on the top step. What about this place fits the Porsche?
It's, being on the top step, it's just amazing. Last year we had a great race here. We came in second and third. This year, first with my son.
Yeah.
It's best thing ever. I'm super happy. And the Porsche was fast.
Strong.
It was good. It was a good car.
I see you getting a little emotional. How great is it to share this with him?
words can't explain. Not at this point.
Yeah, I told them last year we came in second and third. This year I'm like, we're going to win it. I want to win it. I want it badly. And we did it. Yeah, we're going to do it tomorrow.
Enjoy that moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Call it a shot. They're going to do it again tomorrow, says Austin Crines. Well, tomorrow will be 3 o'clock local time here, second race of the weekend for Pirelli GT4 America. But of course, first we turn our attention to the highlights of race number 1 of the weekend for Pirelli GT4 America. Clean start, all in all, really fun battle right here. Two competitors with a ton of respect for one another. Somehow, through a very tight section of the track, they made this work.
Yeah, that was incredible there between Garrett and Bowman. Then a big moment in this race with Gonzalez. Couldn't find a gear and lost a lot of ground on pit lane during that pit stop exchange.
That was the move that ultimately won the race for Roland and Austin Crines in the AM class. Chris Wilson also able to make his way past Rob Holland late in the going, up into second spot. Battles all throughout this thing, and this was, well, a bunch of different cars all mixed up together, side by side, further back in the pack here towards the tail end of the race. But Mackay Stevens brought it home for Tech Sport. What a day it was for that operation. Mackay Stevens, Jonathan Newdorf, they get the win in silver and overall. ACI Motorsports, the winners in Pro-Am with Van Berlo and Swearingen. And it's RS1 to victory lane in the AM class. Race 2 comes your way tomorrow, 3 o'clock, Florida time.
Yeah, I mean, Tech Sport did a great job, and